Welcome back to the Selling Point Podcast, where we talk about real-world sales leadership for small and mid-sized business. No hype, no buzzwords, and definitely no motivational poster nonsense. My name's Anthony Nix, and I am the founder of Transformative Sales Systems. And today we're talking about one of the most overlooked but most powerful leadership moments you have all year as a CEO. Your year-end sales reset. Not your budget, not your revenue targets, not your annual plan, your conversation with your sales team about performance. Because how you talk about this determines how next year will go. Most CEOs either have a generic pep talk or they unload pressure and frustration onto the sales team, and neither one creates real change. Today, I'm going to walk you through why most year-end sales conversations fail, how to lead these conversations with clarity instead of emotion, what to reset if you actually want better results next year, and finally, how fractional sales management turns a reset into real execution. Now, why do year-end sales conversations matter so much? Every CEO knows the numbers matter. Revenue, quota, win rate, pipeline, sales cycle time. But most leaders underestimate how much the tone and the structure of their year-end conversation shapes what happens next. Your sales team is watching closely at year-end, and they're trying to read, are the standards changing? Is leadership serious about fixing what didn't work? Or are they about to run the same play again next year? And here's what most owners won't say out loud. If your sales results were inconsistent this year, your conversations likely were too. When sales leadership only shows up during problems, people learn to hide from problems. When leadership avoids hard conversations, standards slowly erode. Your year-end reset is your chance to hit the reset button on all of that. There are two ways that CEOs get this wrong at the end of the year. Most year-end sales conversations land in one of two extremes. First is the pep rally. Everything's fine. The market was challenging. Next year will be a bounce-back year. Everyone claps, but nothing changes. Or we have the pressure cooker, talking about missed numbers, introducing stress, threats masked as motivation. Reps leave overwhelmed, defensive, and disconnected. Both approaches fail for the same reason. They focus on emotion instead of structure. Salespeople don't need speeches. They need leadership. And leadership sounds like, here's what actually worked. Here's what clearly didn't. Here's exactly what we're changing next year. Without that clarity, people default to survival mode instead of growth mode. You need to start with reality and not spin if you want your year-end sales reset to work. You must start with the truth. Not comfort, not spin, just truth. If the year felt chaotic, say it. If the forecasts were off, own it. If you personally save deals at the end of every quarter, acknowledge it. Your team already knows the truth. What they're waiting to hear is whether you're willing to say it out loud. This is where credibility is either built or lost with your sales team. So a simple framework for a good conversation should have, what actually happened, why it happened, and what has to change. This isn't about blame. It's about responsibility. Real change begins when leadership stops pretending things are mostly fine. You need to shift the focus from results to systems. Most year-end reviews focus only on the results. Results matter, don't get me wrong, but they're lagging indicators. If you only talk about results next year will be driven by the same invisible problems. The real reset happens when you shift the conversation to systems and behavior. You want to lead conversations around how consistently your team followed the sales process, where deals stalled in the pipeline, how discovery was actually handled, what behaviors produced wins, what behaviors produced stalls and lost deals. When you talk about systems, you give people leverage. When you only talk about results, you are creating pressure. And pressure fades. Systems last. This is also where fractional sales management becomes a multiplier. FSM doesn't just push for more output. It builds and enforces the system behind the output. One-on-ones, now that's where real reset happens. Your team meetings set direction. Your one-to-ones drive behavior. Most reps never get clarity on three simple things: where they truly stand, what is expected next year, and most importantly, how leadership will support them. Year-end one-to-ones should be specific, not emotional. They shouldn't sound like, "You did okay. You need to close more." Instead, it should sound something like, "You avoided budget conversations early, and that's hurting your win rate." Or, "Your follow-up discipline is costing you momentum." "You're strong in discovery, but weak in advancing next steps." This isn't criticism. This is leadership, and that's what it sounds like. Fractional sales managers are built for that exact moment. They coach to behavior, not emotion. They tie development directly to performance. Your reps may not always like the level of clarity at first, but they will respect it. Now, during the reset, the CRM and the pipeline standards need to be addressed. If your pipeline is sloppy at the end of the year, your forecast will be fantasy next year. Year end is the moment to reset what qualifies as a real opportunity, what each stage actually means, and what must happen to advance an opportunity. How long a deal can sit in the pipeline with no movement. What documentation is required in the CRM? This is how you move from hope forecasting to real forecasting. And again, this is not a threat. It's a professional standard. Everyone benefits when the pipeline reflects reality. Leadership makes better decisions. Reps prioritize better. Forecast accuracy improves. And fire drills and firefighting decrease or even hopefully go away. This is where FSM keeps standards alive week to week instead of letting them fade after January has come and gone. Another thing you need to do is connect sales to the bigger strategy. Your sales team doesn't just need a quota, they need context. Year in is when you show them where the company is going, which markets matter most, which customers you want more of, which deals you will now walk away from. When reps understand strategy, effort becomes focused instead of random. A fractional sales manager turns this strategy into execution. Target lists, messaging, qualification rules, coaching priorities. Now sales is pulling in the same direction as leadership. I want to caution to not confuse pressure with leadership. Many CEOs think more pressure equals more performance, and it doesn't. Pressure creates hiding, clarity creates alignment. Year-end should not feel like a courtroom. It should feel like a leadership reset. Your team should walk out thinking, I know what's expected. I know how I'll be supported, and I know what has to change. Fear produces short bursts. Leadership builds durability. Now, at this point, you need to draw a line in the sand and decide the old way is over forever. Maybe this year was full of firefighting, inflated forecasts, hero-driven revenue, last-minute scrambles. Fine, own it. Now, draw the line. Next year becomes the year of structure, standards, coaching, accountability, predictability. Your year-end sales reset is where the line is drawn. Your year-end sales reset is not a formality. It is a leadership moment for you. If you use it well, next year will feel completely different. If you waste it, you'll relive this year all over again. Sales doesn't become predictable by accident. It becomes predictable when it is led intentionally. And if you don't have internal leadership capacity to build and maintain that system, that is exactly why fractional sales management exists. At Transformative Sales Systems, we help CEOs build real sales leadership, structure, and predictability without carrying a full-time VP overhead. If you're ready for next year to be different, schedule a strategy call with us. Just head over to transformativesalessystems.com/contact and schedule a time for us to speak. Or look in the comments, and most probably you will find a link in there as well. I want to thank everyone for listening to the Selling Point podcast. And if this episode spoke to you, hit home, share it with another business owner or CEO who needs to hear it. And we'll see you in the next episode. Onward.